Here we are. Tom, can you just take it away for the recap?
Sure. All right. So the agenda items. Let me pull up my page here. FOSDEM recap. All right. So we're looking, talking about FOSDEM, which happened a couple weeks ago now. I've been traveling so much I can't remember. So a couple weeks, end of January, we had the Sunday was the SDR Dev Room again, like we had last year. I think it went really well. I was hoping Philip could be here for this discussion too, but we'll see if he pops in. I think it went really well. We got a lot of, I mean, it was kind of one of those lines out the door the entire time. Huge amount of interest, good group that was in there. Really good talks. I was really pleased with pretty much every single talk that I saw there. I think I only ducked out on Sylvain's talk just because I know Sylvain and work with him anyway, so kind of figured what he was doing, and I assume he gave a great talk because he always does. So yeah, I don't know really too much more what to say about that. We're still waiting on the videos to post. Videos, as far as I could tell, as far as I know, were worked fine. So they were being recorded, and we're just kind of waiting for FOSDEM people to post them online so we can link to them. Maybe the only other thing for me to say personally is that I've posted my talk information, the PDF and the hold on one second. Topic. So the PDF and all of my GRC slides that I use in my talk are online. I'm going to post the link in here. There we go. Okay. So yeah, I think that's probably all there is to say about FOSDEM for this year. I'm going to declare it a huge success. We talked about it afterwards. I think everybody else agreed. Sylvain, maybe do you want to pick up if you have anything thoughts to say about this year? And as far as I am concerned, as far as I understand, we're going to try to do the same for next year.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add. I mean, I just joined, so I didn't hear everything. But yeah, this year was great. Just make sure that I don't know if I think we can upload like the slides in the like the system that FOSDEM use, the Pentabarf.
True.
I don't know if we can upload our slides into that directly, so that people that watch the old schedule have the link to the slide directly, or if we should just post them somewhere else.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I believe you can put stuff like that in Pentabarf. So
You can.
Yeah.
There's actually several things. You can post multiple files even, and all kinds of info. So, and they are being archived. They don't go down. So you can actually access even last year's Pentabarf stuff, and assuming the years before as well, but we didn't have an SDR track then. So yeah, it's a good idea. I'd like to encourage all the authors to do that.
Then, what else do we have to talk about? We have the Hackfest recap. All right, and I'm gonna post the. Oh yeah, is there anything else anybody wants to say about FOSDEM? So let me just post the webpage here. Okay, Delft Hackfest. So Hackfest was pretty good. I think Delft was actually a really nice place to host it. I think if you asked anybody who was there, we had a ton of fun, maybe more fun than anyone should. You may have seen some videos from that, but it was great. We like I said, we had a great time. Now I will say this: so I posted the webpage to recap the stuff that happened at that Hackfest. So there was definitely a lot of stuff that happened, a lot of good stuff that occurred. So we definitely have some outcomes from it. I thought we'd have a lot more people come. Now, in fairness, a lot of people who I expected to be there just had conflicts that week that were unavoidable, or they were new to programs, or just getting started with something. So there's definitely a huge number of people that could have made it that didn't for other reasons, just from a timing perspective. I thought the timing was great because it was right before FOSDEM, so at least us coming from the U.S. were by that point acclimated to European time, and we were already over there, so that we weren't hit with the general FOSDEM 3 days of insanity type thing. So I'm hoping that we can do this again next year, roughly around the same time. TU Delft has told us that their Prosemic at TU Delft has said that we're welcome back anytime. So it's likely, or it's possible, that we'll do another event there again next year. Just because, again, we had a great time. The city's really nice. It's small, but it's really nice. The facilities were fine. They definitely gave us a lot of room and a lot of freedom to do what we needed to do there. And it was so close to FOSDEM anyways that it was an easy train for us to get through. But like I said, I really was a little disappointed by the turnout. Again, not for a lot of people's fault, but I was still thinking that we'd get a lot more interest. I'd like to try to figure out in the next few months to basically a year before we try to do this again. We may have another Hackfest in Europe before then or not, but I'd like to try to see where we are with the European developer community and what we need to do to entice people to come. We're growing a presence over there. I talk to people over there, and more research institutions and groups are picking up GNU Radio, so that's a good sign. But I would like to try to understand how to get more people out to the Hackfest. Okay, so that's thing one. Thing two is the nice thing about Hackfest is that it just kind of gets us all together, right? And that's a fantastic way to keep the community and developers working together and understanding what's going on and just doing stuff. But in a lot of cases, where we've come down to is that there's so much that we're all interested in doing, but it's kind of our own individual things that we're working on. And so these things can often turn into is just all of us doing exactly what we'd be doing elsewhere, just in the same room. And that has its benefits. That definitely has its merits. But I would like to maybe try to refocus some of our Hackfest events around a couple of big projects that we can then focus on. We brought a lot of baggage to this one because we were all really focused on other issues. But I think it'd be nice if we could have a little bit more of a group or a couple of projects that we can group together and focus on and try to solve some fun issues as opposed to some of the necessary issues that we'd be working on anyways. This is my thought. I would love other people's feedback on that aspect of these things. Maybe we just keep doing what we're doing, but I'd like to see if we can make these these more event-like as opposed to just kind of hackers coming together and hacking. So I think that's my say on this. Like I said, is there any feedback from anybody else from that perspective?
So how many people actually came in numbers?
I think total we had was 8.
Oh. Including people from Delft?
No, we didn't actually get anybody from Delft. And this is again something that we've experienced before from the university support. Delft is the team there are becoming more interested in implementation issues in real world, over the air. Let's see what happens when we try to do our ideas, put our ideas out there in real hardware and real systems. They're getting there, or that's where they want to get. They aren't really there yet. So it wasn't a group of people who do GNU Radio already. Much like when we did it at Virginia Tech, there were a lot of people there who were kind of doing their own thing in GNU Radio, but weren't kind of part of the community. So yes, we didn't really get much of a buy-in from the university, other than the fact that they were happy to have us there and gave us all the support we needed from that perspective. But no students actually showed up and worked with us. And again, that could be when we do these things. When we do this at EDIS headquarters, it's not like we're trying to draw Edis people in. They're already in, and we can just do our thing, and we know that community. Coming from a university who maybe not part of the community could also be, one of those things where if we come with our own projects and our own ideas, we just sit down and start working on them. That's not really embracing them as outsiders. So whereas if we have maybe a couple of challenges, a couple of projects that we can work on, we can set up ahead of time, that might be a little bit more appropriate for those types of scenarios.
Yeah. So I guess would be interesting is if someone wants to host a Hackfest, maybe some kind of lab that is starting to get into GNU Radio, and if that's the case, then we should probably get together beforehand to figure out what they actually need. So I mean, in Blacksburg we tried to have this thing for students, and a lot of students came, but you could tell they were all forced to do so.
Right.
Didn't actually have much fun. Didn't take much out of it. So I mean, when we did it in Karlsruhe the last time, we had a huge turnout, but that was because we already have established a community there. So it's not like all the people that came were completely new to the whole thing. So there has to be some middle ground in there, something in between where people don't actually know everything about GNU Radio but still want to come. And yeah, I mean, as you said, we have to figure out what they need. But we need location first. So if there's a lab out there that sort of wants to get into GNU Radio, then maybe we should not only talk about facilities, but also about what can we do to integrate people from the lab.
Yeah. No, that is a good point, and especially instead of us trying to come down and say, okay, here's what we want to work on, to work with whatever that lab is, to say, okay, well, if you have particular challenges or areas of interest, and maybe develop around that. So definitely interface with the labs around that a lot more before we just show up there. Yeah.
Okay. But still, it's nice. We're having more Hackfests all over the world.
Yeah.
There's definitely no downside to that.
Yeah. Like I said, we definitely had we all had a really good time there. At least I think we did. I certainly did.
Blowing fire.
Yep. And
Does
now
anybody know if there's going to be an Edis Hackfest this year?
Yeah. Have you not been up on that?
No, I guess not.
All right. Actually, you know what? I haven't actually sent out all the information anyways. So it's just kind of been Ben and me talking about establishing this. I'll do that today. I should have done it last week, actually. But yes, we have one coming up.
Cool. No rush. Just curious.
Yep.
Okay, I mean, speaking of students and people who want to get involved, my next item on the agenda is GSOC. So, as usual, we're applying for GSOC, and actually, this year we're also applying for the Summer of Code in Space. Sounds cool. It's basically the ESA version of GSOC. I'm assuming everyone knows what ESA is, but in case you don't, it's the European version of NASA. That's why it's called Summer of Code in Space, and they specifically target open source projects that are somehow space relevant, and you have to argue why you're space relevant, which was pretty easy in our case. I have no idea how that's going to turn out, but with GSOC we have a pretty good experience at this point, and so I'm optimistic that we will be accepted. Maybe we still need to work on our ideas page. Marcus, could you please post the link to that, to the ideas page in IRC? Thanks. Been abusing Marcus as the meat bot here. Yeah, and if that happens, then we'll have a couple of students working on on stuff during summer as usual. So these people. So our main goal for these students is really to integrate them into the community and get them as long-term contributors. And that doesn't always work, but we've had decent success in the past, so I'm actually quite happy about that. And in most cases, we get some really cool projects out of it. So even if the students don't stick around, then at least they've delivered something nice. Yeah, there's really not much else to say because at this point we have to wait until we're accepted or not, and then I'll update everyone. Unless there's any questions right now, which I'd be happy.
Yeah, I do want to say we talked about this beforehand, Martin and I did, but and so this may not reach the right people, but I do want to make sure that it's well established and out there that the earlier you as students get integrated with us as a community to talk about your ideas, your proposal, the project that you want to work on this summer, the better shot you have of actually doing that, and I think the better shot we have of actually getting a successful project in the end. So work with us, early. Try to get your proposal. As I said, it's no coincidence that so many people from Karlsruhe got slots last year in GSOC. It's because they came to us early and often, and we beat their proposals into submission to make them good proposals that we all could then easily agree on. So anybody who's listening to this, or as we can get this information propagated out there, that is a way to a successful GSOC project.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the issue tracker. Yeah, Tom, just go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, because I put this on there. So one of the things that I just want to point this out is that the issue tracker is alive and kicking, and we are actively pursuing what goes on there. This is a big way that we as a community manage bugs and issues and feature requests and things like that. So please keep an eye on it. Please use it. Don't submit stuff to the mailing list. Submit it to the issue. Well, submit questions. But if there are patches or bugs or something like that, try to manage what goes on the issue tracker nicely. So that's been established. That's nothing new for anybody. What I want to bring up is, every now and then, maybe every month or every couple of months, I remember to poke people who have been assigned to a particular error issue. So we need to keep on this. If you're assigned to an issue, please keep up with what your assignments are. Or I will continue to try to poke people. There are a number of things that people have claimed, and that's a problem. Is if you've claimed it, sometimes we will force an assignment on somebody who we know that this is their domain, right? So Sebastian gets a lot of stuff pushed on him because he's the GRC guy. Sometimes they are claimed by people, and if you have claimed something, then please please keep up with it. Or what you're doing is you're basically taking development time away from that because somebody else may be able to jump in there, but they said, oh, Tim, or let me use Bruce. I don't think we have a Bruce here. So Bruce has claimed this. Well, he's going to be working on this, so why should I bother, right? And that just means that project never gets completed because Bruce is sitting out there doing nothing. So we need you to keep on that. Or if you don't feel that you have time or the knowledge or whatever to work on that issue, drop your assignment so that it can be freed up for other people to look at and claim. So we just want to try to get a better system working here with the issues. Sorry, somebody had a question, but let me just finish a couple of thoughts here. First, Martin and I talked about it. There is a little bit of some unknowns about how to manage the issues as an assignee or as somebody who submits one or somebody who works on one. So Martin and I are going to, or I think me, is going to put together some information on our kind of how to contribute page for what we mean when we talk about managing the issues, so that if there's what do the statuses mean, what should you as a person who is assigned to this do to complete this issue as best the best and most efficient way possible. So we'll get a little bit more solid information out there. The final thing that I want to say is, we tried this before, and just due to bad circumstances with the person who we chose, who couldn't stick around in the community, they were just, life took over. We did try to have a issue tracker manager. As somebody outside, somebody else whose kind of focus in the project is to make sure that these issues are being addressed, and somebody who can poke people on a weekly or bi-weekly basis to say, hey, can you provide some update, or where are we on this project? It'd be great if we could identify another one of those. So we'll be keeping an eye out, or some thoughts out for who might be a good person to take over that role again, so that we can make sure we're keeping up to date with stuff. Okay, so that's what I want to say about the issue tracker. There was a thought or a question out there?
I was just going to comment on the issue about assignments of the issues. Each of the categories for the components, when somebody issues a ticket, has a default assignee. So since those are assigned on most components, those people automatically get selected, and it may not be the right person to get the assignment. So you should probably review those and make sure that the right person's assigned as the default assignee for each of the different top-level components.
Okay.
It also brings up an interesting thing because, by default assigning stuff to people, we might coincidentally get into that situation where, for example, Sebastian gets something auto-assigned and then people think it's claimed, but it was actually auto-assigned.
Right.
Maybe we should just take the auto-assignment out completely. Because I don't see any other way of distinguishing between, this is generally someone's responsibility, and and someone has actually claimed something.
So an alternative to that is to keep the default assignments, but to also make sure that the default assignee understands when they get something assigned to them that they should do the triage on. Maybe they know of the right person to take over that, and they can interface and reassign them, or they could themselves take themselves off of that, saying I can't address this. But I think that's the point of the default assignment, is not to force it on somebody, but to provide that person with the ability to then triage it more.
Yeah, sure. Maybe I pointed to the wrong direction, but if someone might be interested in an issue, and then and it's still auto assigned to whoever got it auto assigned. So maybe we need a different way of communicating that.
No, I had a similar thought about the default assignments, but I still think that I still think that we probably want to do that. And then, like I said, I think it's more of the thing of whoever is the default assigner or assignee should be understood what the role of being a default assignee for something is, and that role is to triage it and make sure that it actually gets assigned to the right person from there. And as I said, that role could be to claim that you don't have time to do it, or you don't know how to do this, and then drop your assignment from there. But I don't know if that kind of model has been fully established right now, and that's something that we should probably work on, is to make that an established thing.
Okay. I don't think there's anything else we wanted to bring up, right?
No, I just wanted to partly this discussion was to bring up the fact that the issue tracker exists, and that there are definitely some issues that are outstanding, and I've poked people on them. And I think that there's going to be a few that I have poked people on them, and I haven't heard back from them, and so we might just have to drop them because I think most of the ones that I'm not hearing back from people are feature requests. And if you've requested a feature and assigned yourself to it, and you don't follow through with that, well then, there's not too much we can do, because we're not here. We can't solve all of your issues without getting some positive feedback from you. So I might do that soon if you don't pick them up again. Yeah, so I think that's probably all I'll have to say about that.
Okay. In that case, let's talk about what our working groups and task force have been doing. So there's actually been a new group working on CGRAN. and mainly on the new Seaground website. And I don't know, Nathan, if maybe you want to say a couple of words on that.
Yeah. So we went through a sort of period where we had 3 people come up with prototypes for the website, and that allowed us to help pick the best technology, I guess, to move forward with. And we've identified that, and I guess sometime soon people have tasks that hopefully will get finished, and we'll have a Seaground website.
So on that, do we have any timetable? I don't know, what else is there to say? Because to me, getting the Seaground system up and running is kind of a top priority of the project right now, because we really want to be able to manage kind of the proliferation of products that are going out there. We want to be able to make sure that they're understood and easily accessed.
Yeah, so there's no definite timetable yet. It's basically up to. Have we heard back from Chris?
I have not. I've actually, I've pinged him offline, but I have not heard back from him. So Chris,
Okay.
if you're listening.
So what we're waiting for now is we have basically the prototype that is almost done, and the roadblocks there are my time to spend on it and Robbie. And we're waiting to hear back from Chris, who is hopefully has some out-of-tree module manifest file cooked up for us.
Yeah.
Hope it shouldn't be. I would put it on the order of. I would like to say weeks rather than months.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll probably have a couple of iterations, but I think the time until we can actually present something, even though it's just like the first version, is not that long.
Yeah. And I think one of the things, maybe we talked about this, but to make sure is that if a project doesn't have a manifest file, that we just fill in some defaults for it and just ignore the fact that it's missing, just so we don't have to require every old project that exists to add the manifest file before they get up there. I'd like to, so we can kind of move faster on that by just ignoring the fact that there's no manifest.
Have we brought up the manifest file on these calls before?
I don't think so. Maybe we should recap very briefly what we're actually doing. So basically, any out-of-tree module that's in PyBonds will be dumped into an archive of ours, and that archive is then parsed, and a list of out-of-tree modules with metadata and what blocks they have, etc., is generated. That's the new Seaground website. So it's all automatically generated. There's no manual intervention in actually creating the website, and then it's automatically updated every so and so often. And one change that we'll be introducing to the out-of-tree modules is that you can add a manifest file that sort of provides this metadata for us, and that'll be stuff like author information, the icon for the App Store, that kind of stuff. So it all lives inside of the out-of-tree module, and rather than having to add information to the PyBonds recipes. So the out-of-tree module author actually has control over that. And as Tom said, if you don't provide a manifest file, it still works, but there'll just be some default information in there. Yeah, and we have some basic prototypes up there, but I don't think they're worth pointing out at this point, because we're pretty close to having something to present.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's all there is at this point. Nathan, I mean, while you just have the mic, do you want to talk about Folk for a minute?
Yeah. So there is an official version of Volk that I've been working off of. No one is currently using it, I'll say, in a project, but it is the version that we will use. It's at github.com/GNURadio/Volk. Pretty soon we have there's a couple of issues now that have been brought up about Volk that have been fixed in this version, but not in Uniradio's version. So that's basically the driver now for using or starting to use this as a submodule in Uniradio. One of the exciting things about Volk is it now has documentation, and I think it's pretty good. There's examples for most kernels, and they actually compile and do something useful with the kernel. Yeah. Basically, so for as far as the GNU Radio submodule for Volk, we've got a list of, I think it was 6 items that need to be done, and they'll be done fairly shortly, definitely before the next dev call. And then we'll just need a bunch of testing for people to reinstall GNU Radio and make sure everything still works.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, as Nathan mentioned, and we've probably said this before in these dev calls, we're moving to this Volk as a submodule, and that is to help us so that we can have Volk as a separate thing, but also not be tying down versions in our version structure that we have in GNU Radio. So it's going to mean slightly different mode of doing Git, but the hope is that we'll update PyBomb, so PyBomb does the right thing, and we'll ask Marcus to update Build GNU Radio, and so Build GNU Radio does the right thing. And more people we're going to try to, we're hoping to force over to using one of those 2 methods, or just, apt-get or yum install or merge and all those things. And only the developers who are actually doing real development work on GNU Radio itself will have to have this updated model for the recursive pull of the submodule. So hopefully we'll be able to update all the web pages and all the scripts and all that stuff that we have access to, at least, to do this thing correctly. But it'll probably take a little bit of. We're expecting it'll take a little bit of time, and there'll be a little bit of a headache, and people not following the instructions correctly and coming to us. So we'll have to be dealing with this for a little bit, I think, as we make the switch.
Okay. I'm just going to pull up Doug's email.
Sure.
So Doug telling us about what happened in coprocessor land. So there was a working group call this February, and there's actually notes for all of these calls and on the developers call wiki page. What's new? Main point. Tom, were you on that call?
I was, yeah.
Yeah, okay, maybe you can talk about it then, because I'm just reading this email.
Yeah, let me actually pull up what we identified. I'm trying to think what we actually talked about. I think the main thing that we talked about was the
design doc.
Yes, thank you, the design doc. That's the next thing in the email anyways. Yeah, so we've had these issues. There's the focus of the coprocessor working group right now is in the buffer allocation and management within GNU Radio. So we've had some ideas about how to manage that. And we've had 3 kind of outstanding issues on the issue tracker to work with those. So skipping the design doc for a second, I worked on one of the issues. So we actually just merged that in this morning, or last night I saw it got merged in. And it's just some accessor information about how to, so we know where buffers exist and all that. There's a couple of other issues that we know we want to work on to enable non-default allocators, so that blocks can kind of choose how they allocate their buffers. And just to be sure everybody knows, these are highly advanced features of GNU Radio, and by most blocks will still just use the default allocator. What these allocators are for is if we want to try to do something special, maybe there's a different architecture, but more likely it's just because we want to access coprocessor memory or hardware I/O memory to try to reduce latency and overhead of moving data around. So those are there's been some progress made on those. So I was at Virginia Tech with Tim O'Shea last week, and we made some headway on a couple of those things. Doug was there actually as well. So the real issue is that Doug has started to create a document, and I'll post it in here, the coprocessor buffer design document, so that we can get a really good grasp on what we want to do with the buffer management, how we want to accomplish it, and kind of what the purposes of these things are for. And hopefully by the time we're done with this design document, the solution basically falls out of it. But because this is low-level stuff, because it's we're dealing with the actual buffer and memory management of the scheduler, it's complicated, it's very important, and we want to make sure that we do it right. So we want to do this kind of slowly and methodically to get it right. And oh yeah, and Doug just want to also to say that he's picked up issue number 730, which is the basically just support blocks that require custom buffers. So Doug has actually started to focus on some of the actual the issues themselves. So we're definitely making progress both on the design and on implementing some of these things which we've made into issues because they're known, they're understood as what we need to do to enable the rest of this work, and now we're actually just trying to get that done. So I think that's a summary of Doug's email.
So for the design document, do we want to put in, and I see use cases, reference documents, there's a lot of really good material. It's very clear to me what all the stuff is that's in there and why we're doing this. Do we also want to have a section of implementation issues or that sort of thing, implementation thoughts or something like that? Files are going to get touched, suggestions, whatever?
Absolutely, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start working on that then.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, the main idea is I think a lot of these ideas are in people's brains, and they're not written down in somewhere that everyone can review, learn, and critique. So if we can get this doc updated and everyone can read it, we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll start putting some stuff in there since I've done quite a bit of background work on this already for thinking about some of the parts. Excellent. And we also talked about this a whole bunch at GRCon. So. Yeah. Okay.
Nice. Sebastian, what's up in GSD land?
Unmuted. Well, not much. No. We have the Qt port still going on. We've sort of had a little bit of not being so active. The conference has kind of weared off over the turn of the new year. But we picked up a little bit. Andy's currently looking at the backend stuff I wrote and figuring out how to integrate this with the GUI work he's doing. Seth has also made some progress on the overall GUI structure and is now focusing on Hawk library and all the little widgets around the main view. Aside from that, I merged a little, or I got a little patch merged that will invalidate GUI blocks which don't match the generate option of the flow graph they're in. So that basically means if you drop a WX GUI block in a flow graph which is configured to generate a Qt GUI, it will not be valid. So the mechanism that this is using is it just matches a part of the title, and that's the prefix Qt GUI. So if anybody has an OT module and uses or actually has GUI blocks, he should stick to that convention so it'll continue to work.
Okay.
Yeah. I also had a couple of patches I wrote for issues on the issue tracker. I don't have a lot of feedback on that yet, but the most important one is how we handle GOC-generated high blocks. I don't know if anybody has ever looked at the Python code that comes out of GOC and uses high blocks. It has this ugly execute file call from Python in it, which is basically a hard-coded way to get the high block code inside the top block. But it's actually not really portable. So to make it portable, I came up with two solutions. One is pretty simple. We just substitute that absolute path with whatever higher block path is on the other system or a system you might copy your flow graph to. But that still kind of uses the same command, which is the execute file. And I'd rather switch to a normal Python import statement and just prefix whatever path the high blocks are on Python's path. Now, I'm not sure if there's going to be trouble for anyone with this, but it seems the more Pythonic way, and also it allows to copy generated high blocks in the local directory and just load them, and you don't have to bother with any paths at all. So, are there any thoughts on this?
Yeah, conceptually, that second one does sound a lot better.
Just about anything is better than what we have now.
All right. Another thing that I did is there's a feature request to allow GUI syncs in hierarchical blocks in GSD. Now, this is kind of, I'm not sure if we even should implement this. I have a solution and I posted it, but what it does, it actually, now think you have a high block and you just want to drop in like a frequency scope or something. But the actually high block has no idea of whether it's going to be included in a top block which is set to Qt or to the right GUI option.
Right.
So kind of, I'm not sure if this is worth implementing or if it's a corner case we should maybe not do.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I was. Oh, go ahead.
I was thinking maybe one of the options of a hierarchical block would be, okay, I'm a console block, or I'm a WX block, or I'm a Qt block, and then it can basically do its own layout in its own elements, and just be included like any other GUI block. But so you kind of predefine that this hierarchical block is, a WX block or a Qt block.
Right, that'd be one option.
Yeah, I'm debating that. I like it in one respect, because it allows some really kind of nice, easy manipulation of layouts. But yeah, the general purpose of a hierarchical block is very generic. You can kind of, you want to be able to throw it anywhere. So it's almost like this is a secondary thing than a higher block.
I disagree, because first of all, like from the topmost level, you should be treating higher blocks like regular blocks. That's what you mean, right?
Yes.
But we already have that distinction, because if you have graphical syncs, then you're already making the distinction between WX and Qt and non-graphical blocks. And also, I can see a lot of use cases for this feature. Like making your own graphical syncs from other things.
And also, like, if I understood Sebastian correctly, then he wants to implement something that annotates the XML or adds an XML property that lets a block decide, or define, okay, I'm using Qt or I'm using WX. But look at the whole thing, how we manage or how we do this warning that, okay, this flow graph has no flow control in it, so maybe throw in a throttle. That would, like, this is really like hard-coded in there right now. We check for audio things, GRUHD, FunCube dongle, and nothing else. And maybe if we had like a XML element that tells us, okay, this requires Qt, or this requires WX, or this requires hardware access, then we can unify this whole idea of blocks not being quite like the others.
Mm-hmm. And what about like Sebastian's other work on disabling Qt or WX depending on the options? I wonder if you could could we actually have the higher block if it has GUI elements in it and it's labeled as Qt, but then it's pulled in and maybe there's like a disable GUI option on it, and then it would actually internally disable all those so it could run as a generic higher block. Does that seem doable, Sebastian?
It's certainly doable. I mean, you can template anything. The question is, will the normal code be too much polluted with stuff like this?
Yeah.
Maybe I can outline the current solution, which is it's a hack basically where I forward all calls to layout elements to the parent flow graph, and I pass the constructor. So it's really a hack. And
yeah, I think I'd rather see it where it has its own layout, and then we'd have to just we'd incorporate that sub layout of the higher block into the parent's layout. I think that'd be a nicer.
Right. Yeah. I just wanted to get some feedback before I start working, putting a lot of work in this. But that's good.
That actually reminds me of something that I would like to have, or would have liked to have, like in the block properties, something where you can disable a block based on a variable. Like, so you can calculate, should this block be enabled or not, using variables. Because that would solve that problem, basically, because you just put in there, okay, if options generate is Qt, then disable me.
You can access options from a variable right now. But yeah, the enable property of a block is just hidden. It's not there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be easy to do. Well, what I'm taking away from this is if we do it, we want to have the high blocks create a widget, which is being a high block class hierarchy point of view. Make it hard to just disable it. So if it has its own layouts and stuff, we should it's a GUI high block, and that's it. So if we go for a more lightweight solution where it doesn't have its own layout stuff, then it would be easy to disable GUI blocks. But for detection, I'm just forcing a Qt GUI prefix on the title, and then it will be picked up by the top block, just like all blocks are.
Yeah, okay. Do you see stuff like this becoming easier with your Qt port of GRC? Or is it going to be basically the same solution?
Well, we're talking about the generated code, which is all different from the actual model. But adding properties is a lot easier. But generating the code from it's the same task.
Okay.
Okay. So I think that's basically it from my side. I'm currently toying with remote execution. If anyone's interested or has thoughts, you can email me. I will put up a feature in the issue tracker, I guess.
I guess the embedded people will be interested in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you should get in touch.
All right.
with Bill.
Yep. So just I'm tying zipped bundles that you can, like Python has this feature where you can execute a zip file.
Actually, I think Moritz had some ideas because I think it was him who proposed that for a GSOC project.
Oops.
We could ask him about that, and then just in case. Talking to Phil, he's not here today, so I don't know.
He suggested you didn't have too much to say, anyways. I think the last big movement on the embedded world was updating the web page, the wiki page on the embedded systems, and yeah, I guess we're still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of yeah, there's been quite a lot of action on that wiki page. That's nice. And yeah, I haven't, as for community stuff, I haven't been doing much except for the Cgran page myself. Okay. Oh no, Jonathan, you have something. You have some news.
Well, I wanted to talk briefly about the live SDR environment. The scripts for making a live SDR image have been published on GitHub. We haven't announced it yet. We're not quite ready. Martin and I have been cleaning things up, and it's almost ready, but we still have to do a bunch of documentation to tell people how to use it. But the basic goal is twofold. One, we want to enable interested developers to make their own customizations of the live SDR environment. Obviously, if you just want to use it, you download an ISO and you're done. But if you want to build something that is, has specific software or remove software, whatever, you have the ability to do that with these scripts. The other one, which is probably more Martin and my focus, is that we want to start developing more sort of demo, tutorial, self-learning, clicky type stuff to add to the DVD. Because the way it's designed right now, I mean, it was really made to supplement a teaching course. So it's very plain. And if you want to use it as a download, learn GNU Radio, and go through everything, there's a lot of content that we would need to add for that. And so by having these scripts public, hopefully we can solicit some help from the development community on making that happen. That's it, basically.
Cool. Cool. I think that's it for today's. Anyone have any last words?
Nope.
Okay.
All
Thanks
good.
for joining, everyone.
All right. Yep. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Ciao.